We are reconvening and calling to order the canvass of the returns and proclamation of results of the April 2nd, 2019 Municipal Run-Off and Supplementary Aldermanic Elections held in the city of Chicago. Good afternoon. My name is Marisel Hernandez. Seated to my right is Commissioner Kresse, and to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain. Next item on the agenda is public comment, and we have Mr. Olson. Good afternoon, Mr. Olson. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a while since I've seen all of you.
Exactly.
So, and I'm happy to see you on this rainy afternoon. So there are a number of issues that I'm going to probably be wanting to speak to the board about concerning things I saw in this last election cycle. But today, I only want to talk about one. And it's something that I've talked to the board about before, but it's particularly important now, especially with these two aldermanic races we have that are so very, very close. And that's when this issue becomes even more important. So what I want to talk about is the discrepancies on the Form 80s. And I'm going to focus in on the 46th ward just as my example here. But this is probably true of every ward in the city. It's not as important when the elections are not quite so close. So on the Form 80s, and if there are any accountants in the room, you might want to just brace yourselves. I don't know if there are, but if there are, oh, there is one. Oh, a forensic accountant over here. Oh, okay. So on the Form 80s, the election judges, and they're swearing, and they're certifying that all the numbers on the Form 80 are true and correct, and they have to sign the Form 80 on the back. So this is a document of some legal value. The judges have to put, so whenever a voter comes into the polling place, they have to sign an application, as you all know. And then that number is put on, it's put in a 3-ring binder, which is called the spindle. And as each voter comes in, the election judges number that application. The first one is 1, the second one is 2. So that at any point in the day, when I come in as a poll watcher and I say, how many people have voted? They'll look at their spindle and say, 100 people. Now that number should match the number that's on the electronic poll book, obviously. And then when you add up the numbers on the ballot scanner on the touchscreen machine, those numbers should all be the same numbers of how many people voted that day. So, so the voters, or the election judges, put that number from the spindle on the Form 80. They also put the number from the consolidated ballot scanner and touchscreen machine on the Form 80, and that's a different number that says the total voters that day. Obviously, the number from the spindle should match that other number, but in many, many cases, that does not happen. And it becomes particularly important when an election is super close. So just looking at the Form 80s from Ward 46, and if you look at all the discrepancies between those two numbers, the spindle number of applications and the machine number, the discrepancy, the total discrepancy, according to the Form 80, is 754 votes. This is an election that's being decided by 25 votes. Now, some of those discrepancies, and these numbers, by the way, are all on the 148A form, which the Board of Elections produces, and which is FOIA-able also. Obviously, you guys don't need to FOIA that. That was for them. So 754 was the total number of discrepancies. Now, in 2 of the precincts in that ward, the election judges put down that the number on their spindle was 0. That's probably a mistake, and that accounts for several hundred votes, like about 500 votes. So, I mean, the first thing that needs to be done is to find out, did those judges have anyone sign an application form? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they had no spindle. That's not unheard of. That's something I've seen in polling places before. And where I come in at 11 o'clock or something and find out none of the voters up to that point have signed an application, which means that signature on that application is the only form of identification, as you know, that's required in the state of Illinois. So if you don't have that, you don't really know who voted. All you know is that someone walked in and said, "My name is Joe Smith," and they gave this supposed Joe Smith the ballot. But there was no comparison of the signature with the signature that's on the electronic poll board, which the voter supplied when they registered to vote. So even if we take off in 46 those two precincts where the election judges put 0 on the number for the application, we still have 230 votes. Again, in an election that's being decided by 25 votes. So this is problematic because, and it goes both ways. Sometimes the judges say a vote exists, but the machines say, no, it doesn't exist. And sometimes the machines say a vote exists, and the judges say no. So there are 230 instances going one way or the other. What I've noticed, and I haven't done a really comprehensive study of this, although I'm planning on it now, it seems to me that more often than not, the extra votes are votes that the machines say exist, but that the election judges say don't exist. So this is really a problem. I'm hoping that if in these two wards, if cases go forward, I'm hoping that this issue of the numbers on the Form 80s comes up, because this is the question of how many people really voted today. And it's not just true on election day in the precincts, but this is also true of early voting. And I've seen massive discrepancies in early voting as well, where I go in to check and I'll add up the numbers on all the machines and then look on the spindle and find out that they're, I've seen as much as 50 or 60 off. On election day, I don't just stay in one precinct, I travel around. And this is something I'm checking in every precinct I go. I check the numbers, and if there's a problem, I try to get them to resolve this before the day is through, so that we don't come up with the situation like I'm explaining to you on the Form 80 and 46. But I'm only one person, so I can only get to so many precincts in one day. I've never made 2,069. So this is an issue that really needs to be addressed.
Okay.
And so can I say just one more thing? So what is the implication of all this data? Two things. One is we're not training our election judges well enough because they make mistakes on the Form 80, and this is an important form that they're signing, and they're saying these numbers are true and correct. So better training of election judges is definitely an issue. But the other issue is that I believe our machines are not always counting the votes correctly. And we certainly saw that in November of 2016 in the 5% audit, where at the end of the day, even after up to 4 hand counts on the early voting machines, we could not get the hand counts to match what the official election results were. And that was in 2,232 ballot positions on 22 early voting machines.
I don't know. Joe, do you have, you're the one that was
I have the document of that.
addressing Joe.
I would respectfully disagree with Mr. Olson's characterization of the process. The process has become unwieldy in terms of the 5% with early voting, because that involves people going through rolls of votes by hand. I don't believe that that's what was anticipated when the original legislation went through. I think that is just a process that has become a nightmare. My hope is, and my belief is, that the commissioners and the executive director and assistant executive director have that in mind as we go forward looking at new election equipment, but in November 2016, even with my conversation with individuals from the state board, they believed that there was confusion, perhaps with Mr. Olson's group on the actual purpose of the 5%.
No, I understand legally, according to the election code, what the purpose is. I understand that.
So I just believe that that is a mischaracterization of what in fact actually happened.
Okay, thank you.
So Joan has addressed issues that don't involve the exact numbers. All the numbers I've mentioned today are numbers from documents from the Chicago Board of Elections. So you don't have to believe me. You can look at the documents and look at the numbers. These numbers are disturbing.
Well, we will,
So please,
we will look into it.
please do this, and it's just a really important issue, obviously.
Thank you.
I'll be getting back to you when I process all of the 148 days in all 50 wards in this last election to let you know what the total discrepancies were
You're welcome to
citywide.
come back for public comment anytime.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes. Okay, I definitely concur with Don. I did look at the 148s. This is the major reconciliation event after the election. And, but I just want to go one step farther than Don. This level of sloppiness and inaccuracy is unacceptable to the citizens of Chicago. And we would like to sit with you to go through all of these processes that we've observed year after year after year and develop a list of resolutions to some of these problems. So I did look at all of the 148As, and I'm just going to give you some of the numbers. And that is, this is where they look at the Form 80s. They also pull out and try to find a tape in the blue card, see if it's there, a major piece of election material. So in the two wards where the candidates are challenging the elections because they're not quite sure what the official results are, really, in 46, Ward 46, there were 40 of the precincts, 21 precincts out of 40, 52%, where the Form 80s and the tapes were either not there, not completely filled out, or incorrect by several votes. So 50, it doesn't give you that warm, fuzzy feeling that our votes are being counted accurately or that the processes are reflecting what's going on election day or the election. So that was 52%. Ward 33, 43%, 12 precincts out of 28, where the Form 80s were not filled out, there was no real reconciliation, there was no real investigation, and or there were no, five of the precincts had no tapes in the blue cards. Gosh, gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling that we're just really an accurate, dotting every I sort of, organization. I would highly recommend that you look at Columbia, New York. Columbia, New York has a number of processes that they do that are redundant and that are really transparent. We don't have real transparency at the Board of Elections, and we don't have, in a lot of respects, meaningful observation. It's taken us years to figure out how to meaningfully observe some of these processes. I feel for the candidates and their poll watchers when they come into some of these processes. They're very poorly explained as well. So we would really encourage you to sit with us. We do have recommendations for every step of the way where we could actually add some transparency and accuracy to the process, which is what the citizens of Chicago deserve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll proceed with the rest of the agenda, and the next item is the consideration of tabulated statement of the returns and proclamation of the results of the canvass of the election returns for the April 2nd, 2019 Municipal Runoff and Supplementary Aldermanic Elections held in the City of Chicago. Is there a motion to approve, adopt, and proclaim the results of the election?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and the results are proclaimed. Is there any further business before the board at this time?
the next board meeting.
Give them all back.
If there's nothing further before the board, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.